The feminine shines through godly surrender. Now, in society, in culture nowadays, we're kind of confused, aren't we, as to what femininity actually is, what it means to be a woman. And I have basically been interested and curious about what a woman really is because of the confusion that I personally also have experienced growing up and up until this point. And I also have looked at what the confusion have led to, what the consequence of the confusion is among us all, both for women and men nowadays. Now, according to the Bible, and when I even say the Bible, people are like, oh my gosh, are you going to look at the Bible as to what a woman is? Well, actually, if you dare to look at it, you'll find that there are a lot of principles that can be really useful to have a look at and that can actually be helpful as to how to navigate reality as a woman, right? And as a feminine creature, we all have feminine and masculine energy, but being able to get clear on the actual distinction is so valuable. So, firstly, biblical femininity is priceless and rare. It creates trustworthy character. It makes for a good spouse. It produces genuine love of family, as well as it produces leaders and beautifies the insides. Hello, hello, Jazz. Good to see you here. So, I've been interested in this for the past couple of months and even years, right? As to what it means to be, feminine and to have this essence that we get to bring to this world and to our relationships and to our society and our families and everything. And I come from a background of, let's say, atheism and just being very focused on being a good girl, okay? A perfect girl and being someone who really is masculated. Okay. I was super masculated as far as, working really hard and getting the good grades and literally working my ass off. I remember in high school, I had this like poster on the wall which said, success comes to those who work their ass off. So, this was the kind of motto that I had myself prior to getting to the realization of basically realizing that I got burned out by following this motto that success comes to those who work their ass off. And it's not to say that you shouldn't work your ass off. I mean, to some degree, to some extent, yes, working, having a work ethic and showing up, having integrity, all these things are important, but especially for women, especially for the feminine, working your ass off to be successful, quote unquote, isn't necessarily what is going to bring the fulfillment that actually is possible for us to experience. And Jess says, yeah, same here. Yeah, so exactly. There are so many people that I know of as well that have sort of fallen into this trap of just working your ass off and then it leading to you hitting the wall and just questioning yourself, questioning like, why do I feel like this? Why is it that I work my ass off and I have ticked all these boxes, but I still feel deeply unfulfilled? So, this kind of seeking of truth and seeking of sort of, yeah, just seeking truth really, that has kind of, and me hitting the wall several times in my life has brought me to this point where I now literally go to ancient scriptures to look at, okay, across time and space, because let's be real, we've just lived this amount of time and we only live here for this amount of time. Let's be humble enough. Let's humble ourselves to like look at the ancient way and look at how the progression has sort of been up until this point, and maybe we can learn something from ancient times. So there are fundamental principles, hey, for feminine creatures, for women to be able to create fulfillment not only for us, but for others and beyond. So biblical femininity is first and foremost priceless and rare. Looking in Proverbs 31, this is what I basically have come to realize. We live in a time, right, where worth, particularly for women, is supposedly on the outside. So, what we tend to do is we tend to want to change ourselves or alter ourselves. And I've fallen trap to this to some extent too. Um, and and we look to society, to Instagram, to the highlight reels of other people to determine whether we are worthy or not. So if we don't know this, if we don't know that our worth is equal, like everyone's worth is equal in relation to God, and is on the inside, then we're going to strive on the outside. We're going to strive to optimize ourselves and always be working really hard to feel worthy. So, this is where the perfectionism sets in, which is what I spent 5 years digging into to become a perfectionist coach, basically, to help people overcome perfectionism. So in Proverbs 31, we see character and integrity. That's what it's about. That's what beauty is. A woman of honor, integrity, and virtue is priceless and rare. Listen, it's rare to have honor, to have integrity, and virtue. These are principles we want to live by, right? Integrity, to follow through with what we say, and sort of honoring, not honoring ourselves. That's so important. And then second, biblical femininity creates trustworthy character. So trust is so important for any relationship. You must have trust. Trust begins with a good communication. And so you want to learn to communicate and do what you say you will do. And communication is truly a skill. It's truly a skill. It's something that we can learn as we grow. But like the feminine, the way that I've come to realize really works to not create resistance in our bodies or in our relationships is that we, as the feminine, the woman, can kind of communicate with gentleness. And it doesn't mean that we don't have boundaries, but it does mean that we have a sort of gentle approach to the way that we go about communicating with other people, and especially in intimate containers. Because if we take the masculine controlling role, this is only going to create friction, because there's going to be two opposing forces that are hyper sort of in their frame, and that doesn't work. And I've had to figure out this on my own too. So it actually is a challenge for you as a woman or the feminine to learn to surrender in the way that you basically just don't seek to always be right or to make wrong. This actually goes for both parties, but being able to really lean into trust, lean into that kind of faith, it actually helps a lot. So, yeah, biblical femininity creates trustworthy character. And then, thirdly, biblical femininity makes for a good spouse. So we are to build up and not tear down. Don't get on your spouse in public. That's really important. The Bible says men are to love their wives and wives are to respect their husbands. So, and whether you have a partner and you're not like a wife or husband yet, it still applies. This is actually psychologically something that we need to consider too. That it's not necessarily like basically what women and men strive for in relationships are actually quite different. Men long to be respected and women long to be loved. And this is what women then have to learn to begin to use communication to respect the man and the husband, basically. And for the man, it's so important to affirm of the woman and to share how much there's love for her, and not only through words, but through action, through acts of kindness, through showing up, through quality time. See, and for men, it's being able to, show the man that, you know what, I really respect that you show up for the family, show up for me, that you do X, Y, and Z. It's more about the doing. Man really loves being acknowledged for what they do, whereas women long to be loved for who they are, their being, their essence, their energy. So you see, there are different ways in which we as women and men long to be appreciated. So in that way, we can alter our communication so that we can grow in that way. So there are different ways that women and men and the feminine and the masculine can be a good spouse in that way, right? And then, furthermore, biblical femininity produces genuine love of family. So, a woman of God gives her energies to provide for her household, her family, her community. And true biblical femininity demonstrates love for the family, and God really flows through her. And this is actually something I had a hard time grasping to begin with myself. And there was a point in time where I was like, you know what? I would want to just go on my own and be my own individual self, and it's all me, 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 and my goals. And surely we do have individuality, yes, but we can only actually grow to our fullest potential if we extend ourselves and let ourselves support and be supported by our community, by our family. And it actually, let's say you have a turbulent or not so good relationship with your family, whether that be your sort of blood family that you descend from or your own family that you've created. This is literally what growing to be more Christ like is like. When you have pain, when you have discomfort, when you have uncomfortable conversations within your family, when things are not seemingly going so well, this is the challenge that we've forgotten to lean into, because we can grow our heart. And growing our heart and extending love, even in situations where we don't feel like it, that takes that we lean into the feminine kind of love. This sort of love that does not look to have something always in return. See? So this is what I myself am sort of committed to right now, to extend love, right? To extend love. Also, yeah, yes, to my own family that I descend from, and also to the coming family that I am to have. And this is actually something that I would love to speak more on in the future as well. Hello, Jen, nice to see you. It's being able to sort of grow into the type of feminine that is able to um, kind of balance these different areas of life. Because I myself thought at one point that I can't have all these different areas of my life. I have to choose one and just double down on that. But we, as feminine creatures, we're very multidimensional. We can think of different things at different times, and it's really beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. And it's a gift from God that we're created like this. And so we get to utilize that too. And then, furthermore, biblical femininity produces leaders. So, biblical femininity is not weak, it is powerful beyond measure. The woman of God is a hard worker, she's a leader in the community, and she can get things done, right? She's a get it done sort of person. So this is one of the sort of myths that I feel is out there, that a feminine woman is someone who just can't get things done. She can get things done. It's just done in a different way than what the society is sort of pushing us and forcing us to do things like. Because think about it, like growing up in this day and age, you're put into this school, and you just have the school and the not just the school but the government and all of the things above the school, they want to just give all these people, all these youth, the same kind of education, and it really doesn't take any consideration as to whether we're women and men anymore, in the sense that we then end up coming out of the system very uniformal, if that makes sense. We come out on the other side thinking that men and women are pretty much the same, which I've come to realize up until this point that we have biological differences, we have mental and psychological differences, and we shouldn't forget that, or we shouldn't work as if we don't. We can actually sort of optimize ourselves. Yes, but we can't change the fundamental basics and essence of who we are. And if we try to do that, what would end up happening is that we create disease, we get a lot of burnt out women, we try to be these like super moms that is doing everything. We're just doing absolutely everything and try to be everything everywhere. And men, as a result, ends up being emasculated because do they have anything to be respected for if the woman is basically doing everything all the time, right? There's no room for polarity. There's no room for this kind of attraction that really is more so there when we do have some different roles, when we do appreciate that, and that we do appreciate that we have differences as well. So that's that. But circling back to the fact that biblical femininity produces leaders, and that women, in the sense that if you're a woman and you allow yourself to surrender, you allow yourself to really tap into this soft, gentle, loving self that has an essence of creativity, that has an essence of trusting and believing in everyone and anything really, and just really just wanting to hold others in their beauty and amplifying beauty, that does not mean that you're weak. It's really powerful, actually. It's super powerful. So I think one of the main reasons that women have a resistance to this is that they are afraid that they will be weak or seen as weak if they, let's say, long to have kids, or long to have a creative mark on this world, and do not go down the same stereotypical, I wouldn't say stereotypical, I would say the societal path that is laid in front of them, the cultural path that is laid in front of them nowadays. You're absolutely not wrong to want traditional, more conservative sort of lives. You're not wrong to feel like you would have wanted to be appreciated more for your being than for your what you produce and what you do. It's very normal, actually, to seek to be loved for your being more than for your doing. And when you bloom beyond sort of the need to be fit into this frame of what it means to be a woman nowadays, and you surrender into simply just creating and going about your life from a biological point of view, and from what you learn in scripture what a woman is, it's beautiful what can unfold from there, because that is really what can allow things to flourish. I have even a hard time describing it because it's so beautiful what happens when you surrender to the organic nature that you have, right? The organic nature in which you were created to be. Just like a flower doesn't strive to become a tiger or a human. The flower is simply a flower, and it allows itself, it allows itself to surrender, to go through and grow through the different stages of a flower. And in the very same way, we as women and the feminine will inevitably grow even more beautiful and expand into its potential when there's no attachment to what it has to grow into being, right? Because if you have that image of what you have to become, then it's not organic. Then it's simply a, like, then you're striving, you're not organically growing. So I keep going on around in circles here, but basically your nature organically is powerful, and you're not weak to surrender at all. In fact, when you're in this surrendered, beautiful state of being, you can produce powerful things. You can be in your power. You can speak powerfully. You can produce leaders in all kinds of areas, even yourself. So this is really, really, really interesting. I find how counterintuitive it actually works. That you can actually be soft, but in your softness, you can find your power, and you can find your ability to be a leader as a woman. And lastly, biblical femininity beautifies the insides and not so much just the outside. So, as a woman embraces her God given design and shape, the way that I've talked about being in your organic nature, she grows more and more and more beautiful on the inside, and it inevitably will show on the outside. Outward beauty fades and inner beauty grows. So you want to let him transform you, let God transform you from the inside out. And that begins with a relationship. So again, it really comes down to being not of this world, but blooming beyond the world, and seeing that you're a soul in this human body, and you're blessed to be in this body of being a feminine, of being a woman. And that's a gift from God that you get to be in this body. And it's not about this flesh, because it's going to pass with time. But what will sustain itself is the relationship you have with God, the relationship that you have with yourself, the inner virtues, the virtues that can't be bought, that can only be experienced, that can only be felt. And it's when you, as a woman, allow yourself to really feel and to be and not just strive to do, right? That is when you can truly, truly, truly bloom, bloom beyond as it is. You can bloom beyond this world, and you can bloom into what you came here to bloom into. And only God knows what that is. Truly, I would never in my right mind have thought that I would sit here like this and speak about the things that I speak about now. But the reason why I sit here is because I've always had this sense that it's wise to surrender. It's wise to surrender to the grander picture, to God, and to allow yourself to flourish in an organic way, and not to impose with your mind what you should be and what you have to be, but allow that organic nature to come through you. And that happens through surrender. It happens through relaxation. So, a way that you can go about doing that is by seeking out more sort of experiences where you can be. You want to place yourself in environments where you can be. You want to go out in nature and be, and not have to always do. And then what happens is you can sort of let yourself be inspired by the beauty around you, and you can allow that to sort of activate the inner beauty within you, the organic seeds within you. And then that allows you to have a sort of direction. from that point and not from what you think that you should be, right? So that is really helpful, being out in nature, being in environments that are supportive, making sure that you don't have to go on eggshells, but surround yourself with friends that are, also nurturing, and that you can be in environments that are optimizing your state of being. I think that's incredibly important. And for me, I have definitely found a lot of wisdom in, again, going back to ancient scriptures and seeking truth from ancient points of view, because truth to me is what has sort of evolved across time and space. So, and not just be so consumed in this day, this age, this time, but look at truth across decades, and what that ends up being. So, and these things that I've mentioned are very sort of persistent values, persistent ways that you can go about sort of returning to that femininity that is organic within you, that just is, yeah, it just is. Simply, it just is. You don't have to change it or perform or become anything. You just return to it. And that's how you bloom beyond. So, again, biblical femininity is priceless and rare, creates trustworthy character, makes for a good spouse, produces genuine love of family, produces leaders, and beautifies the insides. And this is how your femininity can shine through your being. And it ultimately is about a sort of godly surrender to God, surrender to the fact that you're not the end all be all. There's something beyond you. And once you realize that, you surrender a sense of control, right? You still have a say in your life, but you accept that there's more to this than simply you. So that was what I wanted to come through today. I send you all my love, and I will see you tomorrow as well. And I'm setting up this community now called The Garden, which inevitably is a community in which we can sort of return to these principles together, because if you come from a background where you haven't really practiced these principles, which I myself have been, then I think it's essential to be in community with others who would like to attend to these principles and begin to live by these principles, so that we can grow more into our organic nature, right? And that is actually the greatest fight that you can fight here in this day and age. It's to come back to your organic nature in accordance to God, because God is good, truly. So you can go to bloombeyond.com/waitlist to come onto the waitlist. And from there, you can then come into the community, the garden community. Sending you so much love. Bye bye.